Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back. So this video is, and hopefully my face is visible. This video is an official introduction to the big O notation. Like for these long time, like for last 3 videos, we were talking about big O notation in a general term, but we'll just officially introduce the big O term in this video. So big O is written as O of a function with n as an argument, as a parameter. So if this is equal to, let's say, a 1, so we say that its big O is constant, its big O is flat, its big O is 1. Example of function, example n, and it's out n. So we say this as big O of this function is linear. Similarly, when big O is equals to n square, we call it quadratic, and so on. And so on may include like n log n and all those. So don't worry about log or something. I myself was confused about log. So when the log thing would come, we would just figure it out together. So let me just erase it for now, or maybe just leave it like that. So as our last few videos, we are talking about two functions. The functions will basically adds up to a certain number. For example, if we say n equals to 3, so the function will add 1 plus 2 plus 3 that equals to 6. Let's add up to 3. Add up to 4 is there, it will say 1 plus 2 plus 3, that is 6, plus 4, that is 10. So add up to 4 equals 10. So both of these functions does the same work of adding up to a certain value. This uses a mathematical function, this uses loops. Here in it is, how many operations are there? It's always 3 constant: division, addition and multiplication. In this, the number of operations, the things which actually makes a function fast or slow, like number of operations, right, that will actually decide whether the thing is fast or slow, is constant here. And herein it is dependent on the loop, right? Herein it is dependent on the value of n. So we just figured that out. The number of operations, that is the time of execution, or say time of execution, is directly proportional to n. Because in this equation we found out like number of operations were equal to how much? 5n plus 2. So as you know a little bit basic of mathematics, in order to remove the equal to sign, you have to remove the constants, right? So number of operations directly proportional to 5n, or simply let's say 5. So as n grows, the number of operations grows, the time taken to execute this function grows. Okay, let's erase it. I really can't find anything to erase the board with. Let's use my belt. Okay, let's try to erase this one off, because we need this space. So okay. Let's talk about the above function, okay? In the above function, we figured that out that this thing's number of operations, it was constant, it was always 3, right? Which was here division, addition, multiplication. That means it was constant, right? It is flat. For such cases, we say it is O of 1. Big O of 1. That is flat, it is constant. We will also see the graphical representation when the values are plotted with the changing value of n, that is when we put a smaller value and when we put a big value, we see the graph which is formed, and in the graph, in that case, it will be flat on the x-axis. So anyways, big O of this function is how much? O of 1. That is constant or flat in this case. So as this entire function from here to here, the deciding factor, which was the for loop from here to here, it was O of n, right? How O of 1? We figured out that n operations were done, like 5n operations were done actually, right? 5n operations were done, including one assignment operation of 1 here, I equals to 1. Actually 5n operations were done, so 5n could be simply written as 5 in a more simplified way, because big O is just about fuzzy representation, rough representation. So its fuzzy representation is O of n. So it is a linear kind of big O. So in linear big O, when we'll plot the value of n with smaller and bigger values, and we'll see a graph which will be formed, will be like this. These, remember, linear graph, like it's called a linear representation of graph. When O of n, this is O of 1. So wait, I'll make some other graphs, what are these things called, other functions, and we will see the graphical representation of them as well as what will the big O of them, and then we will go type them in a laptop and see what is the graphical representation of that as well as what are the output of that, of these functions also, to get a better feel of these functions. Let me just write the other functions. क्या हो गया भाई?
चल ब्लर हो गया जैसे।
अभी मैं इसको काटूंगा कैसे तो? So guys, this is another function. So it's your duty to find out like what will be the big O of this one. So you can pause the video and then you can come back and tell me what will be the big O. Big O is basically, let me just remind you, is basically the number of operations. Okay, so take your time. So yeah, let us see. So here is a for loop with let I equal to 0, I is less than n, I plus plus. Simple loop starts from 0 and goes till n minus 1. Right, goes till n minus 1 because increment is I plus plus, so I equal to I plus 1. Simply, it will run, this for loop will run how many times? We don't even care about how many times it for loop will run. We just care about how many times this statement, this console.log statement will be executed. This inside console.log I will be executed n times. Simple words. This iteration will run how many times? Here it's just not an iterator, it's more than that. I is equals to I plus 1. So here addition is happening as well as assignment is happening, and that's so n times, right? Anyways, so the overall big O, the overall big O of this one, let's not talk about the overall big O. Let's talk about precise like number of operations this for loop has to perform. Okay, it has to perform to k to n here, this inside things n times, and here n minus 1 comparisons, right? Let me just show n minus 1 comparisons. Why? Because it starts because it is always less than n, and this will always increase by 1. It should be less, one less time, right? Think on it. So it will be n minus 1 comparisons. Here this assignment happens only one time, so one time. So we have broken down this for loop and we found out like how many times? One time. Okay, so okay, let's simply add it. So let's simply add it. 1 plus n minus 1 plus n plus n plus n. This n is the last n times inside thing. So 1 and 1 got reduced. This is 4n. So number of operation is 4n operations it has to perform. Wait a second, man. No. Is it, man? Is it? No. What is this? Is it? Can I reduce these things? But whatever. The overall complexity is simply O of n. And similarly, a for loop is here. It is a for loop, it is an increment loop, and this is a decrement loop. You can see j is set to the last value which we are expecting, the last value, and j is always greater than or equal to 0. So when it reaches 0, equal to 0, it stops. Here j is reduced, it is the highest value, it is reduced every time since j is equal to j minus 1. So in the first iteration it is the maximum value, and from the maximum value the j's value is reduced by 1 unless this thing is executed. So you can clearly see how many times, can you tell me how many times will this j iterate? So here how many, like n assignment is there, n times j is equal to j minus 1, n times it's happening, as well as 1 is subtracted how many times, n times 1 is subtracted. As I told you, j is equal to j minus 1, assignment is happening n times, and 1 is subtracted also n times, because this is dependent on the value of n. And here, can you tell me comparison? How many comparison? N comparison. Okay. Oh, how many comparisons? N minus 1 comparisons. N minus 1 comparison, or simply n comparison. Let's reduce it to n comparison. Why did I say n minus 1 comparisons? If you see the highest value of j is equals to n minus 1, so 0 is maximally n minus 1 times greater than or equal to 0. That's how many times it will be compared? N minus 1 times, hopefully. Or simply, let's, for our mental ease, as n times. Let's not get into the complexity of it, because big O is always about the overall fuzzy interpretation. Here this is how many here this is how many times it is getting equal to so this will happen how many times? This will happen I guess one time, and this console log will happen how many times? N times as well overall, right? So overall it also comes out to be something 4n operation. So we can simply say we have of n, right? So number of operation is eventually bounded by the multiple of n. Number of operation is bounded by number of multiple of n. Let's say, for example, let's say here, let's say 10n. Okay, number of operations are 10n. But okay, we don't care. So we have 2 O of n. So O of n. So we will just reduce it to O of n. Simple. So big O. This is O of n. We'll see that in the video. So guys, we are back with one more example. Oh my God, more example. Yes. So we have a function called print all pairs. This is very important for me because I really trip and really get confused when we are talking about one loop running inside another loop, and we are talking about I and j. We're considering the outside as I or outside as j or whatever. We're considering I and j as initializer, like inside or outside loop. It's outside loop and inside loop. It's like how do they interact? So we will be very careful when we will be typing it in the code editor and we'll see the output. We'll really try to understand even visually, if I could show how it is working. So whatever, let's come inside. Like always and always, you have seen by now that what we are talking about. We're talking about something which is getting executed. Now what is getting executed? The inside statement. The inside statement we will start from when we are checking for the O of n. Okay, big O we are checking to start the inside statement. And to be more precise, yes, you must be seeing if there was like a const x is equals to 1 or something, we will just completely ignore its existence in comparison with O of 1 or something, because that it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. We'll simply we don't care about them. We care about loops. If there is a loop, there is big O other than 1. It's not a flat. It never be b or 1. It will not be that. It will be more than that. It will be n. It will be maybe n square or n cube. So these interesting cases in big O comes only and only when we have for loops. So whatever. So we have a console log I comma j. So I, what will be the value of I, and whatever will be the value of j, that will be printed out on the console. So just immediately after this, before this, what we have a for loop. Okay, so we have a for loop here. Okay. So let's try understand this. So one thing which is less painful here in our case is that it is not dependent on the outside variable. It is not dependent on the outside I. It is independent of I. You see, there is no I being used in the inside for loop. So it is very easy. Like j is equals to 0. So here's a constant. It is O of 1. Here n comparisons. Here n assignments and n additions. And here this should we cannot decide like how many times this will run, because there is other few things also there which will decide like how many times it will run. So we cannot decide like how many times it will run by now. So it seems like, let's say it runs n times. Okay, let's say it runs n times. But so let us say it overall it runs how many times? O of n times. The inside loop is running O of n times. Let us see the outside thing. The outside for loop will make this thing run how many times? So there is also a for loop similar to this. I equals to 0, I less than I is equals to 0, that is assignment. And this is n minus 1, and this is n comparisons, n assignments. So overall of the outside loop, big O is also O of n, right? Okay. So can you say, if it was not O of n, let's name this O of n as say k. Okay, the inside thing, we'll just name it as k. It is running k times. Okay. So because there is something called k inside this outside for loop. So can you tell me how many times this inside k will run? N times, right? N times. O of n times it will run. But k is nothing but O of n itself is O of n itself, right? So can you tell me now how many times this k will run? O of n times. That means when O(n) operation is inside of an O(n) operation. O(n) operation is inside an O(n) operation. In that case, we have a big O notation, O of n square. Okay, now this sounds a little bit confusing and headache and painful. We'll try to understand like this. So can you tell me, it was initially running how many times? Because of the inside for loop n times. Now because of the outside for loop, it has to run again, right? Because this also has to run again. Oh sorry, this thing has to run again. How many times it will run? N times. How many times it will run? And n times and n times. Now how many times this will run? Since it becomes n squared times this j's comparison will be done. Since assignment and since the overall of n, big O is rho of n square, only because the inside nested for loops inside statement, this console log statements runs n square times, as I told you, because the inside iterator's increment j runs n square times, the comparison happens n square times, initialization happens 1 times. So yeah, this loop again runs how many times? N square times.
Hey guys, what's up? So in this video we will see how to, I don't know what the fuck am I gonna show you in this video, but I don't know what was I thinking of showing. Oh yeah, so in this video we will see actually what are the outputs of these functions which we wrote a few minutes back on the board. So let's simply run this. So in order to run these functions, you just have to write the names and invoke it with certain value of n. Let's say start with n. This, so Ctrl Shift D, and just trying to run it. Let's check the, let's check the output. So it did not do anything. So it returned something. So if there is a return keyword there, you just simply have to console log and put the value inside and run again. And here I hate this. Yeah, so yeah, 55. What? 55? So what is the total? It says total equals to 0, and if how, bro? What is the value I put? 10. For putting n equals to 10, total is returned as 55. Interesting. But how? Oh bro, why did I take such a big number? Let's take 1. So 0 plus 1, 1 plus 0, 1, simply 1 would be returned because because total is equals to 0 plus 1, this is 1. In this case, okay, let's do it with 2. So 2 should return 3 because 1 plus 2 equals 3, correct? And what if there is 3 actually? 3 should return 6. So yeah, 1 plus 2, that is 3, plus 3, that would be 6. Let's do it with 4, should give 10. So it is working fine. So my question is, how to find out how many times this total was executed, this inside statement was executed. So as we know, the overall time complexity is O of n. The fuzzy way of representing would be O of n of this function, of this for loop especially. This is 1, this is 5n plus 1, 5n plus 1 plus 1 is equal to 5n plus 2. Overall this function actually performs 5n plus 2 operations, which will be fuzzy breakdown would be simply n times. So basically the number of times this inside thing will run will be n times, right? So if this runs n times, you know how many times will this run? This will run n plus 1 times, and this will also run n plus 1 times. What about this? This will run just 1 time. So how many times assigning will be done? Assigning, that is I is here, you can simply write I is equals to I plus 1. So my question was, how many times this will be done? assigning will be done n plus 1 times. If this run n times, this will done n plus 1 times. This assignment part. Assignment is assignment as well as increment. Right? Yes. Anyways, so this comparison will also be done plus 1 times, because as soon as this executes, this I will go mad and it will say add me 1. So it will add itself 1, and then if it is added itself 1, it will straight away go comparing it with the value of n. It will ask, please compare me. So since you see this and this will happen n plus 1 time. I mean, for example, let's say if we put let's put it as 1. Sure, d run. Let's see the output. Let's see the output is 1. So so simply total has been returned, right? Total is added. You know what? I became 2, but it did not come in the output. You know why it did not come? It did not come in the output because it got incremented, it got compared, and when it got compared, it just failed. Do you see? This ran 5. This ran n times. This ran n plus 1 times, and this also ran n plus 1 times. Because like in the first trial, I is equals to 1. It compared itself with n. It got validated. It ran. After it ran, I told you it goes crazy. It's add itself to 1 and it again goes into comparison. So you see, it's all interconnected, but whatever, it's not the point. I'm saying this runs n times, this will run n plus 1 times, and this will run n plus 1 times also. Okay, this runs just 1 times, this runs n times, and this runs n plus 1 times. And hopefully you're getting the point. So we want to see how many times this total was executed, right? You want to know that, right? So if we put here 10, so if we put it 10 and we run, we get 55. So we don't know how many times this got executed. For that, we will just create a global variable name, let's say const, not constipation, just const, and we'll name it as count, equal to set it to 0, and we'll use this to iterate itself every time it happens. So we are iterating every time. Like initially it is 0, so it got executed once, so it count will become plus 1. It got executed 2, count will become plus 2, and so on. So since count is a global variable, so before the return keyword, because after return keyword, like let me show you what do I mean. So after the return keyword, you want to use console.log. You see, it just gets lifeless because it will be not interpreted by the computer. So whatever, so we will write in here, we'll use backticks, and we'll say, we'll just add count. I will say is the number of times the for loop was executed. Okay guys, so okay, just save it, and we'll just change the position, because I said if you run this will, okay, so we get some error that we should not paste it there, we should paste it there. Oh, there's some mistake, we have some error out there. What is the error? Okay, so you shouldn't use const, because the value of count gonna keep on changing, so we cannot set it as a const variable. So just again try to run it. So you see it is ignored completely. We'll just change the place of it and run it again. So 10 is the number of times the for loop was executed. You see, it is not a nested loop, it's a simple loop. So how many times it was executed? 10 times. 10, 10, 10. Okay, it's clear. What next now? That's all. counts executes gets 10 times for this case, and this comparison or assignment and addition operation happens how many times? 11 times, and comparison also happens 11 times. This happens only 1 time. Overall, big O is O of n times or O of 10 times. Whatever. So you see, this entire function is dependent on the value of n. So if the value of n is 10, so this loop will also get executed 10 times. To be honest, this will happen 10 times. Overall, this will run 10 times. Okay, so yeah, so we'll use the same thing on the snippet 2. Oh shit. Oh, yeah, let's see the snippet 2 case. Let's just clear out some code which you don't need right now. What should we do? Just comment it out so that it's not get read it and it's not even seen by us. So whatever. I have a prettier extension which just when I control asset, it just returns it back. Anyways, we don't need that right now. So what do I need to do right now here is you want to see how many times this will execute. So we'll simply do the same thing. Let count is equals to, or simply just leave it let's count, and here we'll say count plus plus. Okay, before that I guess because there's a return keyword there. So okay, how do you fix this one now? Anyways, let's see. There is no need, like this return keyword will happen only once. Why do you even count like how many times? There is no loop inside it. Okay, anyways, so let's use the add up to n function and let's add it some value. Let's say 10 and it should return 55. So it's returning 50. Oh, god damn it. So this is clear. Should D. Let's run it. Oh, since it's a return keyword, as always, insert a log, add up to function. Anyways, so let's try to run it again. So yeah, we got 55 as an output. Good, it's working. Let's do it with 6. The output will be also same. What the heck? We should change the value here. And so what if okay, in the snippet 1 I have an idea. What if we change the value from 10 to n? What will happen? Let us see. Let us just see it. Control Shift D, run. Okay, n is not defined. So n is not defined. That is sad. It's not working. Let's leave it the way it is. Okay, close it. So yeah, so it just the number of operations performed here is how many times? The 3 operations are performed. It's very constant. The big O of this is simply flat. We'll show the graphs as well in a few minutes. Leave it. So let's close this one. Now let's run this one. So here 2 for loops are there. For loop 1, let me zoom it. For loop 1, for loop 2, as I told you, the O of n, big O is big O of n here, this big O of n here again. That means this console or log statement will be executed how many times? N times and n times, right? And also, can you tell me how many times this will execute? N plus 1 times, and this will compare how many times? N plus 1 times. This will happen 1 time, and this one inside will happen n plus. This one will happen n times. Overall big complexities of n. And inside this one is also same. So j is equals to n. So j is equals to n. Acha, overall this will run n times. How many times does j is basically j? This means j is equals to j minus 1. How many times this will happen? Assignment and this operation will happen n plus 1 times each. And this will happen how many times? This will also happen, comparison will also happen how many times? n plus 1 times. And how many times will this happen? What do you mean this happen? Do you see? This is the initializer, this is the comparison, and this is the iterator, right? So initialization will only happen once in the beginning. This will happen once. But this reinitialization, reassigning will happen how many times? n plus 1 times. This will happen 1 times. Whatever you write, n, x, or whatever many variables you want to use, it doesn't give a f about it. It will just execute 1 times. What happened, man? What keeps happening? Somebody's trying to control my PC or something. God knows, bro. God knows that. I don't know. Anyways, so let us put some values like 10. Let's run it. So since there is console log statement inside of our for loops, so we don't care. We just simply invoke the function with a value of some n. These two for loops are inside the countdown function, count up and down function, and we will see now the output. Run. Let's close all of this and run again. Run. Current file. Run. Configuration. What is this? Missing launch.json. What do you mean? Yeah, it did run. So it says going up. So it just goes up and goes down. It counts from 1 to 10 and it counts backwards from 10 to 9. This is a decrement loop and this is an increment loop. Let's see how many times this each loop ran. So we'll just say count up equals to 0. Let's name it let count up equals to 0. And we'll set count up is plus. Let's make it capital. Let's name it let count down. दोनों को यहीं पे लिखते हैं let count down equals to 0, and we'll put it here and say count plus no minus, even though it's count down. I just wanna see how many times it will run, and let's add console log statement here. We don't have that much energy right now left with us, so simply we'll go here and just copy this this one and count up and count down, right? Let's set it as count up. Increment loop. Loop is executed, and will you just simply copy paste count? We'll say count down is another time. Okay, so also that we need this new line here. So hopefully this will just run, and should D run output debug console. What's the error? Count up is not a function. Count up is not a function. We don't even think it is a function, is it? It's just a value. So what's the problem? Can't we increment it? Whatever. Let's see. Run it again. यार इसको बंद करो, इतना ज़्यादा है ना. Run. type error. Count up is not a function. No debugger is available. I don't want to debug this or anything. Whatever, I don't care. Oh, we did get an error. Oh, why so? Why did we get an error? Oh, okay. So, can we use comma here? No, yeah, we can use comma here, right? Let's try to run it again. Ctrl+D, run. Now the error should be fixed. Yeah, so 10 is the number of times the increment loop is executed, and 11 is the number of times the decrement hona chahiye. Decrement loop is executed. Let's run it again, by the way. Run it again. 10 and 11. Why should each run 10 times, right? I think there is some error in the code or some changes in the code which is not reflecting the actual purpose. Oh, here. So it should not be equal to. Okay, if you want to keep it, then let it say 1, because it should not include 0. Now it should give 10 as an output. Let's run it. Let's see the output. So yeah, both are running 10 times. Okay, maybe we're getting a good understanding of this. So the big O of n is a big O for this increment loop is n, and this n. Overall, the is n. It's like linear. We'll show what do I mean by linear and all in a few minutes. And now this last one, as I told you. So herein I have added that counting thing so that we can quickly finish it. So we'll run it with 10. I think I told you we need to spend more time with this one. So we'll spend more time with this one. Yes. So I'm recording. Yeah, recording. So we'll just do it with 1. We'll just start with 0. So when we run it with 0, what is the output? So the output is 0. Is the number of times it is getting executed. 0 is the number of times getting executed. Okay, it should run this as well, right? Okay, I'll try to run again. Output. Okay. So it is not entering the for loop. I is equals to 0. Okay, so it's not executing. So let's try to run it with 1. So let's see the output. So we get 0 and 0. So I is equals to 0 here, and since we put print the value of n we put as 1. So 1 is the number of times the innermost is related. So let's try to understand like how we get 0 and 0 in place of I and j, and how number of how 1 times it is this one is getting executed. Let us try to understand this all. Okay, so initially I is equals to 0. Okay, and I is less than n, it is getting compared. So it is saying 1 is greater than 0, so it should go. So it enters this loop. Now, so it enters this loop. It finds out that again there, in order to break it down, it just goes more inside and says j is equals to 0. Okay, and j is less than n, 1. Okay, so this one should execute. So this gets executed. As I told you, I and j in these loops are independent of each other. So since I was equals to 1 and I was equals to 0 and j was equals to 0 in the first trial, it just happens. So after this is executed and this counter variable is updated, it just goes here and it updates itself. J is updated to, from 0 it becomes 1. Okay, so it compares itself to this. So J is become 1. So is 1 greater than 1? No. So this inside for loops stops executing. So the inside for loop stops executing. So yeah, so this cutely stops executing and this stops. Now what about this? Since this operation so the activity inside is stopped, so it will straight away go and update the value of I. Now I has become 1 from 0 and 1 is greater than 1. No, in that case it stops executing. So we just get this as an output and no more activity. So I becomes 1 here, J becomes 1 here, and gets compared, but it does result into no activity. So it just prints out this as an output. 0 0 and 1 is the number of times the innermost loop gets executed. So as you know, the time complexity is of n square, because this is a for loop inside a for loop, or O of n inside O of n. Operation of n operation, it needs to perform O of n operation, it needs to perform O of n operation, the outermost. So the innermost thing will go for O of n square times of operations. As I told you, this will go for n square comparisons and assignment and addition. This will execute, I guess, only once, hopefully. I don't know how many times it will execute, but this one is pretty much sure this will execute only n times. This will happen 1 times. This is n plus 1 operation, this is n plus 1 operation. This is n into n plus 1 operation, this is n into n plus 1 operation. This is O into this will also execute n times, I guess. I don't know, bro. I don't know. Will this outermost thing affect the initialization of it? Let's try to figure that out. Let's increase the value to 2 now. So we'll just save it, and shift D it and run it. But right now we will not go and check in the value. Okay, we'll not go and check what is the output or thing. Just wait. Okay, we'll just wait and try to understand. Since so this will run how many times? It will run 4 times, right? As per our knowledge, it should run n square times. N square times it should run. So the counter variable should become 4. That means the inside for loop should run 1 time, 2 time, 3 time, 4 time. The outer one should only run for outer one should only run for n times. Let us see. Let us try to predict. So I becomes 0, I less than n, and n is here how much? 2. How much here? 2. So it is true, so it gets inside. I is still 0, and like initial times it just executes. But this time J is set to how much? J is equals to, say quickly. So J is equals to 0. It's 2, 1, it becomes 1. Yes. Now 1 is getting compared with. This video is really very painful, I know. So J becomes how much? J becomes 1. So 1. So it just compares. Yeah, it is true. So J is 1. So it again goes inside, I suppose. And it compares again with I set it to 0 and J is set it to what? J is set it to 1. So it should return 0 and 1. Initial will be 0 1 and 0 0, and this row would be 0 because we are not gone outside because activity inside is still continuing. So 0 and 1. Okay, now counter variable has been updated from 1 to 2. Okay. Now the activity ceases here. It just goes, j is again updated. J is updated with 1. So j becomes, from 0 it became 1, and from 1 it became 2. Again it will compare itself. So is j, so is 2 is 2 greater than 2? No, false. So this inside for loop will stop. This entire inside for loop will stop making sense. So the count is set to how much right now? 2. Since it stops making sense, it will just go out. What value we have? We have 0 0 0 1, right? So it has become dead. So it will go to its father loop, for loop, and here it will, how much it was? It was initially set to 0. Since it has stopped working, since the work inside of this one is done, so I will be iterative, now iterate me. Now inside drama I have seen enough, now iterate me. So I will become how much? I will become 1. So I will get compared. Is 1 is greater than n? The question is 1 greater than n? That is 2. Is 2 greater than 1? Yeah. So again it will I'm inside again. So again for loop, again this inside thing will run. For let j equals to 0, j is equals to 0, j less than n. Is j less than n? What is the current value of j? The current value of j. Current value of j, tell me. The current value of j is, j was 1. Current value of j was 2. The current value of j was 2. It is false. So again it will not execute. It will not execute. Again it stops working. Again it goes out. This is what I am getting an understanding of. So again it will be compared. So okay. So again it stops making sense. So according to our knowledge, it should have run n square times. That means 0 0 0 1, and it should also give, I guess, I don't know, 1 0 0 1. I don't know what, but this should be the output. This much only. Let us see. Since it should run. So no, we are wrong. 1 0 and 1 1 also happens. So how does it happen? Let's try to figure that out. But maybe there is some understanding problem with me. How? How, bro? How? So basically it runs n square times. We'll come up with the next video. How did it happen? Till then, take care.